Shalom, everyone. I'm going to do a video just to show you this book, the Torah, and we're going to go through and read the preface of this book called the Torah, and it is clearly a volume of the Holy Scriptures, indicating it is a gift from the Canadian Bible Society, 10 Carforth Road, Toronto, Ontario, M4A 2S4. So it's, we have some Canadian maple leaves. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought, but we have maple leaves here, and that's the on our Canadian flag for Canada, maple leaves. Presented to, so this must have been just maybe perhaps an extra book that an extra copy that they did not present to anyone, and it was donated. I purchased it at Frenchie's here in Nova Scotia, and it was either Frenchie's or Value Village, I'm not sure. But I did purchase it at one of those secondhand stores here in Canada, in Nova Scotia. Okay, and it says on the occasion of the citizenship ceremony held on, so they would have written down their ceremony at and the location. This volume of the Holy Scriptures is a gift from the Canadian Bible Society, 10 Carnforth Road, Toronto, Ontario. And that's the location. So here we have nice crispy pages, a book that is printed in parchment paper. And here we have the Torah. We'll see the words here, the 5 books of Moses. And here we have the Torah, 5 books of Moses, a new translation of the Holy Scriptures according to the Masoretic text, first section, and that's their signet, the Jewish Publication Society of America, Philadelphia. Okay, so here we are. Copyright 1962 by the Jewish Publication Society of America. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form without permission in writing from the publisher. And I have permission by the publisher to read this book on YouTube. Okay, so it's copywritten, and I have consent from the publisher, which is the Jewish Publication Society of America, in writing, and I have been approved to read this book and upload it to YouTube on my videos, and I am very grateful for that. Okay, so I feel very blessed for that allowance. So here we have the Library of Congress catalog card number, so it indicates the card number, and then manufactured in the United States of America. I also contacted the manufacturer of this print. I contacted a rabbi, and also I contacted certain people just to make sure that I had 100% permission in writing to read this book. I'm going to go through the preface now so that you understand a little back history on this book. The Jewish Publication Society of America produced its first translation of the Bible in 1917. It was quickly accepted by English-speaking Jews the world over. It is still in use and will no doubt continue to be wildly favored. Nevertheless, the need for a new translation has been obvious for years. For one thing, it is possible and therefore necessary to improve substantially on earlier versions in rendering both the shades of meaning of words and expressions and the force of grammatical forms and constructions. This can be done partially with the help of neglected insights of ancient and medieval Jewish scholarship, and partially by utilizing the new knowledge of the ancient, as well as the more recent Near East. For significant advances have been made during the past half-century in biblical archaeology and in the recovery of the languages and civilizations of the peoples among whom the Israelites lived, and whose models of living and thinking they largely shared. In accuracy alone, we believe this translation has improved on the first JPS translation in literally hundreds of passages. Secondly, because the Bible is an eternal book, it must be made intelligible to every generation. The King James Version, upon which almost all English translation of the Bible have been hitherto been based, had an archaic flavor even for its readers in the year 1611, when it was first published. Moreover, it rendered the Hebrew to a considerable extent word for word rather than idiomatically, a procedure which nearly always results in quaintness or awkwardness and not infrequently or obscurity. A translation which is stilted where the original is natural, heavy where the original is graceful, or obscure where the original is perfectly intelligible, is the very opposite of faithful. These were the primary reasons why the trustees and the publication committee of the Jewish Publication Society decided to have a new translation prepared. Dr. Harry M. Orlinsky, professor of Bible at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, who had urged his undertaking upon the society, was asked to serve as editor-in-chief. To serve with him as fellow editors, the society invited two eminent scholars, D.H.L. Ginsburg, professor of Bible at the Jewish Theological Seminary, and Dr. Ephraim A. Spencer, a head of the Department of Semitic and Oriental Languages at the University of Pennsylvania. The society further associated with them three learned rabbis familiar with the use of biblical and synagogue at home. Rabbis Max Artz, Bernard J. Bamberger, and A. Harry Freeman, belonging to the three sections of Origenized Jewish religious life. Subsequently, Dr. Freeman left the United States to assume a rabbinic position in Australia. But despite his inability to attend sessions, he has participated actively in the committee's work. Dr. Solomon Greisel, editor of the Jewish Publication Society, served as secretary of the committee. Messrs. Louis E. Leventhal, Sol Satinsky, Edwin Wolf II, and Lesser Zuzman, by virtue of their positions in the society, participated in the solution of the committee's problems. The committee carried on its work through meetings and correspondence. Dr. Orlinsky prepared a draft translation which was circulated among the 7 working members, each of whom made comments and suggested changes. These were in turn circulating among the members, who then, at periodic meetings, arrived at decisions by majority vote. While the committee profited much from the work of previous translators, the present rendering is not a revision but essentially a new translation. A few of its characteristics may be noted. The committee undertook faithfully to follow the tradition Masoretic text. There were certain points, however, at which footnotes appeared necessary. 1, where the committee had to admit that it did not understand a word or passage. 2, where an alternative rendering was possible. 3, where an old rendering, no longer retained, was so well known that it would very likely be missed, in which case the traditional translation was given in the name of others. Quote, usually as found in the Society's version of 1917. 4, where the understanding of a passage could be facilitated by reference to another passage elsewhere in the Bible. 5. Where textual variants are to be found insofar as possible by means of their normal English equivalents. For the second person singular, the modern, quote, you was used even when referring to the deity, you, rather than the archaic thou, quote, thou, a further obvious difference between this translation and most of the older ones may be noted in the rendering of the Hebrew particle wa, which is usually translated, quote, and. The Hebrew Bible style demanded its frequent use, but in that style it had the force not only of, quote, and, but also of, quote, however, quote, but, quote, yet, quote, when, and any number of such other words and particles, or of none at all that can be translated into English. Always to render it as, quote, and is to misinterpret the Hebrew rather than to be faithful to it. Consequently, the committee translated the particle as the sense required, or left it untranslated. The chapter and verse divisions found in the printed Bible are indispensable, and as a system of precise reference, but they did not always coincide with the organic divisions of the text. The chapter divisions, whose origin is neither ancient nor Jewish but medieval Christian, sometimes join or separate the wrong paragraphs, sentences, or even parts of sentences. The verse divisions, though considerably older and of Jewish origin, sometimes join together parts of sentences or separate from each other parts of the same sentence. It is not surprising that Rav Sadia Gaon, the brilliant scholar who translated the Bible into Arabic, in the 10th century, paid no attention to the chapter divisions, since they did not exist in his day. More noteworthy is the readings with which he joined separate verses of Masoretic text whose authority he did not question into single sentences when the sense required it. Thus, in joining Genesis 7:24 and 8:1 into a single sentence, the present translation is merely following the example of Sadia. The attentive reader will discover other instances in which the translators have not hesitated to follow what they considered to be the logical units of meaning, even when they did not coincide with the conventional chapters and verses. These, however, are marked and numbered throughout. Neither the trustees of the society nor the translators suspected that the task of such magnitude as quickly became apparent. It is, however, the hope of all those who have had a share in the work that the translation of the other two parts of the Holy Scriptures, the prophets and the writings, will be completed within a reasonable period of time, and that the results of our labors will find favor with God and man. The Jewish Publication Society of America, September 28, 1962. Preface to the second edition. The trustees of the Jewish Publication Society and the Committee of the Translators are grateful for the hundreds of suggestions and scores of reviews which these translations of the Torah evoked. The simpler improvisions and the inevitable typographical errors were corrected in the successive reprintings. The translators thought it necessary, however, for the sake of greater clarity and faithfulness to the Hebrew text, to subject their work to a thorough re-examination. They incorporate these substantial changes to whose need they had become convinced. Consequently, this section edition, while adhering to the same policies and principles of Bible translation that were followed in the first edition, occasionally differs from it in phrasing and sometimes in meaning. One of those who took a leading part in the translation of Torah did not participate in this revision. Ephraim A. Spicer, departed his life in June of 1965. His memory will be forever a blessing. JPS, February 1st, 1967. And here we have the contents. 5 books of Torah: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Table of scriptural readings. These are the scriptural readings divided into their chapters and verses. And that's it. Thank you very much. This is just to share the copyright and let everybody know that if they are going to read this book in particular, printed by the Jewish Publication Society, that they need to contact them in writing to be granted permission, as I so did. Okay? Thank you very much. Shalom, everybody. Bye-bye.